Hello and welcome back to Lorcana Villain. My name is Baker, and today we're going to be taking a look at the top 16 deck lists for a 707 player event that took place over in France. This was the Lorca Quest event, which looked like a huge event, not just in terms of players, but they had a bunch of artists and voice actors, and there was concerts going on. I was definitely jealous of the concert part, and yeah, this event hasn't even actually fully finished at time of recording. This was a 2-day event, a cut to day 2 top cut, which is going on at the moment and being streamed on Spessie's channel alongside Kawa and Kim, which is great to see Kawa and Kim on the casting table. But yeah, they haven't actually finished the event yet, but if I wait until they're finished, and then it could be quick or it could be a long time, it could be overnight before the final results get posted, then this video probably doesn't get done, or it delays my Ultra Data video that I want to get out on Tuesday. So I'm doing this now, so we're going to be looking at the deck lists that made top 16 based on their Swiss placements. Before we go into the deck list, I do want to give a shout out to the Illuminaire Champions League, which is streamed over on Wonderland's channel on Twitch, which is basically an event to get different Lorcana teams together to put on exhibition matches, like stream live for people to watch. And yeah, I think it's great. I think more teams is something that Lorcana is lacking. It's something that Lorcana needs. Obviously, no disrespect to Labyrinth, who are great and they've got a lot of really top members, but my opinion's always been, okay, you've got a great team, but what's the competition? Who's out there fighting you? So it's great to see more teams rising up, the likes of the Ink Thieves and Luxury Gaming, and of course one of the other more established teams in the community and content creators, the Forbidden Mountain. So yeah, I love this event. I love the idea, and I was invited along to do some interviews one-on-one with a couple of players, which was a lot of fun. It was great to be involved. Quick message to one person though. Dick Burns. Have fun in Seattle. Anyway, we want to look at some deck lists. So shout out to the channel sponsor, Cardmarket. If you're looking for Lorcana singles at competitive rates, then check out Cardmarket. But let's take a look at the top 16 deck lists. So as I said, this event is still going on. These placements are based on how they finished in day 1 Swiss. But in first place, we have the first of 3 SteelSong decks piloted by Bastion. We've got a lot of that aggro package. We see the 2 piglets in here. We're also seeing the 4 Prince Naveen, the DeCandio special. We've got 2 Ursula. Vanessa's here as a great singer, and a nice way that this deck can come back on the draw. 3 Lawrence for that extra bit of aggro and a big body. Obviously those Petes so important in this deck these days to just shut down actions. And then everything else looking pretty typical. We've got the 4-4 Robin Hood. We've got a 4-3 Cinderella. I really like the high count of Cinderella. Standard song package with 4 World, 4 Zeus, 4 Strength, 4 Storm, and 2 copies of Bare Necessities to snipe away those non-character cards. Yeah, not breaking the wheel in any way here, but I think this is no pun intended. But yeah, I think this is solid. I think this deck is really well positioned, especially with the rise of green steel as of late. I think more of those decks being in the room, it certainly benefits SteelSong, which I think should have that should be a pretty good matchup for it. The Ruby Amethyst matchup is generally pretty good for the SteelSong player, especially if they're a more aggro version running these things like Piglets and Lawrence. I think that gives them a good Ruby Amethyst matchup. The Ruby Sapphire matchup still ain't going to be great, but hey, if you can have a favourable bracket, and hey, you can beat Ruby Sapphire again, if you are a more aggro version, then you can really take advantage of that. But yeah, looks super good. Congratulations to them. In second place, also on SteelSong, we've got Fabrice, a very clean version, 2-line special. We are on that those 4 copies of Prince Naveen, 4 Piglet and 4 Smee here, and 4 Lawrence. Max numbers are pretty much everything. We're on a 4-3 Cinderella. The bit of spice that we've got here is 1 copy of When Will My Life Begin, which is a 3-cost Ingable song. Chosen character can't challenge during their next turn. Draw a card. So anything that draws you a card is okay. Like we never hate that. And this one, stopping them from challenging, can be significant. Maybe that's winning you the game if you just need that one more turn. I still don't think this card is generally great, but there is obviously synergy with the 1-drop Singer 3 Cinderella. So in the early game, if you just want to be able to slow them down a little bit more, there's probably another really specific interaction in meta that this is answering that just isn't occurring to me right now. Obviously, there's the synergy with Cinderella, and again, like, drawing cards isn't terrible, but I don't know, I don't completely understand the choice. Like, I think it's fine, but I think it could also just be 1 bear. So yeah, if anyone's got any specific interactions they want to point out to justify this to me, then I'd love to hear it. But nonetheless, led them all the way to second place in 707 player Swiss, so huge congrats to them. And our third and final SteelSong list, making it all the way to top 8 in Swiss. A very aggro version here. We've got the 3 Ursas, 2 Piglet. We're also running 3 copies of Daisy Duck. So potential for turn 1 and turn 2 super aggro plays. We are running 2 copies of the world's greatest criminal mind, which I've said in the past. I'm a fan of a lot more. Well, everyone knows that. But in meta at the moment, I'm a big fan of Big Sisu, Maleficent, Tamatoa, Cinderella. These are really significant and important characters that are important to answer. Song package, we're only running 3 copies of Strength. Only on a 4-3 Robin Hood line as well. 1 copy of Grab Your Swords, which I super rate. I think is being slept on a little bit at the moment. You just don't tend to see people play around it, I think really is where Grab Your Swords gets its value. So I super like the 1 copy. And 2 copies of Tinkerbell to be that sort of mid-game oppressive board threat that you can put down, which obviously we've already got Cinderella, which kind of fills that role. And Robin Hood's a good quester and bulky, but Tinkerbell just threatens the board in a different sort of way, makes them rethink whether or not they want to turn sideways. So I still like the Tink inclusion. But yeah, looks super good. Congratulations to them. Going back to top 4 then, we have William with some Blurple, our one and only Blurple list that made top cut, doing it for the people. And yeah, this looks really, really clean. We're seeing 4 copies of Library as our main location of choice, but also 2 copies of McDuck Manor. And this won't be the last time we talk about McDuck Manor looking through this today. Certainly on some people's radars at the moment, and I think a bit of a sleeper pick for Seattle. But we'll talk a bit more about that. Running 3 copies of Great Stone Dragon. We don't have any quills. No one jumps, no Mickeys, no Donalds. We just got the 4 T-Po, so that's our early ramp. And again, even late game is not terrible. But yeah, Great Stone Dragon funneling our Inkwell from our discard, which again, you look at this top line, there's a lot of really cheap characters that we could arguably get down and could be in the discard by the time Great Stone Dragon could come online, which can, if you put it down on 3, you can use it from 4, but even just later on in the game to be able to just keep inking without depleting your hand. But Amethysts, obviously, like, we're drawing a lot, so we don't always mind inking from our hand, but hey, if all of your ink can come out of your discard, and then that's just more cards that are just resources, things to answer the board, things to play to the board, then that sounds pretty good. Running 1 copy of Cogsworth, 3 Rafiki, and 4 Chernabog's followers. I've seen messier for sure. Standard bounce package with 4 Crab, only 3 copies of the Merlin Rabbit. I think this could be 4. I respect the decision to stick at 12 uninkables, which is what this is. But I don't know, just in my experience, Rabbit can be super important. But I super love the 3 copies of Scrooge McDuck, who's another bit of a sleeper pick. 4-cost uninkable, 5/5 quest for 2 is such a dominant body. You can put it down on turn 3 potentially after T-Po, so that's super nice. 3 copies of the Bell Accomplished Mystic. No surprise to see her in this list, but a higher count than we're perhaps accustomed to. I think when you're running a high count of Scrooge McDuck, then that really complements this high count of Bell, because it's super good on curve, whether you ramp or not. So yeah, in combination with the Scrooges, I like the high count of Bell. We've got a 4-3 Elsa line. We are running 3 copies of the Floodborn, 3 Hades for some removal, 4 Friends. Yeah, super clean. And again, top 4 in 707 player event is super good. And yeah, I think this is a template that Blurple players should probably start with from going forward, and then you just make some preference changes. But yeah, love it. Super congratulations. Supergalifragilisticexpialidocious. I have no idea. Well done to William. Also in top 4, we've got Douglas with our one and only Emerald Steel deck. Yeah, I imagine there was a lot in the room, but if there was a lot of SteelSong and they were having unfavorable pairings, then that certainly could have contributed to this low transition percentage. But yeah, congratulations to Douglas making it all the way to top 4, and I do believe this is the Zan-Zayed special, and I'm sorry, I know some people get annoyed at me when I call it the Zan-Zayed special. Like, there's argument about like where this came from first, but Zan is who's known for it at this point, I think. You don't like that? Change it. Although I will be fair and give a shout out to Dale Belindo, who's been on Emerald Steel for a long, long time and has been performing very well with it in multiple Disney Lorcana challenges. So shout out to him as well. But nonetheless, no matter who came up with it, it's been doing super, super well. This edition of Morph has really been game-changing for this deck. The early beast shift can be huge. We've got 2 copies of Hidden Cove here to mess with our opponent's maths. Prince John's, we've got that Diablo line, 4 Ursa Deceiver of all 4 Pete, 2 copies of that legendary Arna, super flexible, max counts of all our songs and discard stuff. Yeah, this is the Emerald Steel deck that I think most pilots in playing it in Seattle will be going by, bar a couple of preference changes. But yeah, well done to Douglas. Going into top 8, we've got Olivia with some EA Tempo. Just win the game. The first of 3, the ink combination that had the second best transition. Take a guess now of the deck that you think had the biggest transition into top cut. But yeah, in top 8, we've got Olivia with a pretty toolbox variant here. This looks like the Earlmeister special with that 1 Cogsworth, 3 Merfolk, 3 1-drop Clarabelle, and 3 Pegasus. So lots of options there. We've got 2 Hiss, 2 Bonsai, 1 Arna, 2 Crab, 3 Lol Tiberius Rourke, 1 Madamim Elephant that I like the addition of, 1 Cricky, 2 You're Welcome. We've got 2 Castle and 1 Library as our locations of choice. Yeah, again, we've just, throughout the season, we've seen this toolbox variant consistently do well. Trying to have the answers to lots of different things, and again, if you're against EA Tempo, like, just the fact that this more varied version is in meta, there's that many more cards that you kind of have to think about and play around. So I think that probably contributes as well, along with player skill. But yeah, congratulations to Olivia. Also in top 8, we've got William with a kind of toolbox variant, not as varied as the prior. This one's got no one-ofs. We are seeing the 2 Elsa Spirit of Winter. If I'm playing 1 or 2 of the Spirit of Winter, I'm maxing out on the 5th Spirit personally. 2 Lal, 2 Kit, 2 Arna. We've got a 2-2 Clarabelle line. Not putting as much emphasis on that Clarabelle engine to be our draw engine. Obviously, we've got rabbits and friends and things like that. Chernobog's followers and just bouncing the rabbit. But yeah, this Clarabelle line here is an additional option. The rarest thing here, the most uncommon, those are the same thing. We've got 2 copies of Little John Camp Cook, 1 cost inkable, 0-4, quest for 1. You're in for a real treat, Rob. Tonight's house special is my famous outlaw grub, made from the finest, whatever we could find. Love this art as well. Yeah, I mean, it's a 1-drop 0-4. 4 is a hard number to hit. This could cheat out a lot of lore in the early game. Definitely a better play into the steel decks, whether paired with Emerald or Amber. This would be your preference. So I imagine that's what's justifying this slot here. Also, again, synergy with Crab. No Cricky in here, but I've said tons of times that like the 1-3s, the minis and the Olafs from Ruby Amethyst, they get a ton of use along with Crab, and the same's going to absolutely be true for Little John. So yeah, nice looking list. Congratulations to them. And our final EA Tempo list in top 16 very much reminds me of the list I played against when I was at the Content Creator Set Championships against Lorcana Player. He was playing EA Tempo, and he was also rocking the Hey 3 cost inkable, 2-3 quest for 2. When you play this character, if your opponent has more cards in their Inkwell than you may put the top card of your deck into Inkwell face down and exerted. So we've been saying for a while that generally you can't get value from this on turn 3, because even if you go second, you have to ink to 3 to match them to play this. So it's usually a turn 4 onwards thing, but against the Sapphire decks that are playing Tipo on 2, just saying, this probably feels a lot better, and again, just in the later game, because EA is quite happy, I think, to ink to 3 or 4, and then it can take a turn off. So you can play this Hey after that. But yeah, super aggressive. I like the 3 copies of the Sea Witch Queen to be able to exert characters on quest, and obviously stopping people from singing songs. On a 3-2 Clarabelle line, so more and more players opting for just 2 copies of this Clarabelle. Nice to have it as an option, but not feeling they need to go all in on it. And again, Clarabelle's like, it's better than I first thought it was, but it still lives by the same weakness that I said when I originally reviewed it, which is that it does live or die by your opponent's hand size. But it can be super, super good. Did well for this player, so congratulations to them. Also in top 8, with our most represented ink combination, we have Alexandre with some good old-fashioned Ruby Amethyst control. And this looks nearly identical to the version that was played at the 609 Luda Toiter event by, and I think I'm saying this right, Gili Wafutapa. I might be saying that wrong, and I really need to learn how to say it right if I am wrong, because this is a name I feel like we're going to be saying a lot over Lorcana's lifespan as long as they continue to play the game. We will be talking about them in this video, because they were also at this event and did very well with a different ink combination. But yeah, they made top 8 of the 609-player Luda Toiter event with a list that I believe is completely identical to this one here. So a lot of standard stuff going on with our bounce package, running 2 copies of the Elsa 5th Spirit, 4 castles as our location, and the 4 for Chernobog and Brum. We are rocking those 3 copies of Kuzco, which I've been a big fan of for a long while. Just a nice way to extend to the board without being punished too much by board wipes. You can even quest more recklessly with him and even like bait out the opponents and then make more favourable trades as you go, because you're always drawing the card with Kuzco. Well, as long as he's banished. So I like the inclusion. 3 Medusa, 1 Tremaine. Looks pretty right. I'm on 3 and 2 Tremaine at the moment, but this looks perfectly reasonable to me. 1 copy of the Floodborn Zisu that can shift onto our 3-drop that we're playing anyway, just because it's super good. No Flynn Rider, though, in this list, as was the case for Gilly's list in Ludotoiter. Opting to not play that at all. And no copies of the Merlin Goat, which I didn't emphasize enough when we covered Gilly's list looking at Ludotoiter. I meant to, but I think I started talking about something else, got distracted, and then just didn't emphasize it enough. But what a statement, where like Goat is so often thought of as like the card you dig to, the game ender. But if you're not playing Goats, then you're just saying, I don't need those sort of like extra lore bumps. I'm just going to win the game eventually by just questing with my characters. Just with like, we've got 1 Tremaine here, we've got 1 Sisu. 4 copies of the big Sisu is certainly going to help. But other than that, we've not got a lot of aggressive questers here, so it seems like a really, really grindy game. But one thing that we are seeing here, which I talked about when Gilly was, when we looked at Gilly's list for Ludotoiter, that I was a bit split on at the time, and I am now so incredibly sold on after some playtesting myself. Look, I'm getting tongue-tied. This man, this bird. We got Finders Keepers, 5-cost inkable, action, draw 3 cards. Now when I first looked at this card, I was like, drawing cards is king, but this seems too slow for turn 5. And in some cases it can be, but after I saw it in Gilly's list, I did start experimenting with it. And I said when Gilly was playing it and I was trying to play devil's advocate a little bit, I was like, well, I guess if you don't have a need, like Maui's a response card. Like you don't want to have to play Maui on 5. It's good when you have the Maui and it's getting value. But it's not always the greatest thing to do. Of course, we've got 2 Fifth Spirit, which can be super good. But again, unless there's something to exert that we can then like immediately take out and get value from, not always the best play. There's also not really room for Rabbit Bounce, which is more doable obviously from turn 6 because you've got enough ink to do both of those things. There is also the option of playing the castle and immediately moving a character there, which in some game states and matchup is going to be like really good play. But playing a castle that early, if you're against any of the red decks, you've always got to worry about the opposing Maui. So yeah, it's not like there aren't things to do on turn 5, it can be super important, but if it's not preferable to play a castle, and there is no value to be gained from Maui or Elsa, then turn 5 Finders Keepers is a perfectly fine play, just to dig to more answers, make sure, and also like helping you ink more preferably, because there's so many cards you don't want to ink. In Ruby Amethyst, you dig for your 1-drops early, so generally you play them when you play them. Even in the mid to late game, Brums and Chernobyls can be quite good, because you can like, you get the draw value off them pretty quickly. But they are fine to ink. But a lot of other stuff in the deck doesn't always, like, you're always so hesitant to part with foxes or snakes. Or foxes obviously because of the board, the response they can make to the board. But just anything that's bouncing your rabbits, like, is innately so useful. I think Kuzco's are fine to ink, but again, they're also really nice to just play. And yeah, like, you want to really... There's some super tough inking decisions to be made in Ruby Amethyst. Same is true, obviously, for all ink combinations. But I think they can be some of the most punishing in Ruby Amethyst. And again, tinted lens bias as a Ruby Amethyst stan, I grant you. But I do think there's something to it. And yeah, just being able to play as Finders Keepers, if nothing else, of course, digging for more cards and more answers is a good thing. But just so that you can... ink more preferably, it's super good. And even like beyond turn 5, like, because you don't always want to play to the board. If you've already got a bit of a board established, there's like so much of Lorcana is playing around Be Prepared, Under the Sea, Big Sisu in combination with like ice blocks and things like that. So much of Lorcana is based around like playing around board wipes. So there are like so many turns where you have a couple of things you can play, but you don't want to, because again, you don't want to be more punished if you are board wipes. And so in circumstances like that, Finders Keepers can be super good. And yeah, it's great if you've got Rabbit Bounce. But how often have you lost because you didn't have Rabbit Bounce? And again, I've been playing a bit on Tabletop Simulator, and there are a couple of games where, like, because I've been testing testing this, not the same list, I'm still playing goats, but I've been testing out 2 Finders Keepers. And like, if you get rabbits and Finders Keepers, oh my god, like, resources for days, look at all of my advantage. But like, if you miss the rabbit, then the Finders Keepers can do something very similar. So I am so incredibly sold on Finders Keepers, and it is one of my cards to watch out for Seattle. I think my main 2 are Finders Keepers and McDuck Manor. But yeah, the goats, like, again, it surprises me. I don't know if you're going to catch me taking goats out of my deck, but again, a deck built originally by Gilly. Again, apologies if I'm saying that wrong. I will educate myself and correct myself. But I've very quickly learned that they're very well known in the Magic the Gathering community, and especially for playing control decks and for being very innovative. And it's a name that's come up a few times now. Top 16, it was top 8 or top 16 in Birmingham, the top in Ludo-Toiter, and we still haven't even got to their actual deck. We're talking about Alexandre, who piloted this deck to top 8. So, yeah, Finders Keepers, man, I'm a fan. What do you think of it? Let me know in comments down below, but congratulations to them. Next, we've got Kevin here. This looks like the Kendall special. Actual, no, I'm not, with the 4 Chernobog, 4 Broom, and 1 library to complement them. 4 Castle, 2 Elsa 5th Spirit. I'm not sure if they were... No, I think he was playing 5th Spirit. 1 Crab, 1 Tremaine, and 3 Medusa. Looks about right. 4 Brawl. No surprises here. I think I've said in the past, I like at least 2 Crab, but there's nothing else in this deck I really want to take out. And yeah, I like the 1 library with the 4/4 1-drops that we're running here. So yeah, it looks super good. Congrats to them. In top 16, we've got Ludovic. The biggest change here is no Brooms. Instead, we're playing 3 copies of Mini, Always Classy, who is that 1/3 that, as I said, you get a ton more use out of her alongside Crab. Better play into the Steel decks if you want to maintain your 1-drop. And yeah, perfectly fine quester. So yeah, I like Mini. 2 Tremaine, 3 Medusa is the count I'm on at the moment and feeling super good. 2 Crab, no Elsa 5th Spirit here, who I do like, but you can't have everything. So yeah, super good looking build. Congrats to them. And our final Ruby Amethyst list to take a look at, we've got Arthur, who was also on the 1/3s. 4 copies of Olaf, only 1 Crab, but again, even without the Crab synergy, which I do think is a good reason to run 1/3s. And if you're running 1/3s, I would always run at least 2 Crab. But again, you don't need that synergy. Just better plays better into the Steel decks. Survives just that bit more, just that extra bit of quest pressure. I think Olaf is perfectly reasonable. Only 3 copies of Maui is understandable but scary. I understand the temptation, but I'm not sure if it's ever worth it. Only 3 B prep I think is fine. Again, I've done that before. I've run only 3 in Ruby Amethyst. I understand the temptation. You don't always need maximum copies. You don't want to draw into it early. Personally, I'm still on the 4. We're seeing 2 Castle and 3 Library, which surprises me a little bit to see a high count of Library here without Brooms, especially played as in more copies of than the Queen's Castle. But I have seen some debate lately about some people saying they still think Library is actually better than Castle. So maybe that's a poll we need to put out and like bring that conversation to the channel, put a spotlight on it. I love the 1 copies of Finders Keepers that we're seeing in here for all the reasons I listed earlier. So congratulations to Arthur. Going into top 16, we were just talking a lot about him. We've got Gilly Wafu Tarpa. Again, please someone put me right if I'm saying that wrong, and I apologise. No disrespect. But nonetheless, yeah, I've already spoken about them a lot, proving themselves in the Lorcana community as a fantastic player and already proved themselves to Magic the Gathering stands. But yeah, super nice looking list, and again, showing how good this player is with piloting different decks. It was SteelSong they were playing in Birmingham, Ruby Amethyst in Ludo-Toiter, and now making top cut in another huge event, this time of Ruby Sapphire. The 1B prep, I'm not a huge fan of personally, but we are running a 4 big Sisu with 4 Ice Block and 2 Fang Crossbows, so that's the way you justify 1B prep in my mind. There's so many ways of getting characters into this big Sisu range, and we're playing the full 4 package. 4 Vision, 4 How Far I'll Go. We've got just 2 copies of 1 Jump Ahead, 4 Tipo, 4 Tala. We are playing 2 copies of the Daring Visitor as a shift option for the big Sisu, and again with max copies of Ice Block and the 2 Fang Crossbow, this Sisu Daring Visitor is going to be online all the more. Obviously, this Fang Crossbow also having a super good use in the mirror match to get rid of opposing Maleficence and Sisu. But yeah, playing 4 copies of McDuck Manor, basically unheard of for Ruby Sapphire these days. That's probably someone that's been doing it, but yeah, certainly not the norm. And yeah, sleeper pick that I imagine this just gets more value just because more people aren't expecting it. That in itself raises the quality of a card in specific meta meta games. Because if they go for a board wipe and you're able to respond with 1, maybe even 2 McDuck Manors, something that they might not have been playing around at all, might not have been holding those Mauis. And even if they do have the response cards, make them play to the board so that then you get value out of your board wipe. But yeah, the biggest shock of all of them is the lack of Lucky Dime. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, zilch, not a penny. Broke, mate. No Lucky Dimes in the deck. What a statement. I mean, I think apart, like, again, I'm always trying to play devil's advocate and trying to understand decision making for a start. There's an awful lot of removal for the dime just in the basis of, like, so much Sapphire in format. Like, red-blue is such a highly played deck, and everyone's on Kuzgos and hideaways. Doesn't matter always hugely, as like if you can put down the dime and immediately exert it for gain. But certainly makes dime hard to play preemptively. So yeah, we're just relying on quest pressure, which again, just Tamatoa, if you've got enough items on the board, can be nice and high. There are also times where Lucky Dime is a really, really bad top. There are times where you're really digging for it, but it can be bad. I don't know. I don't know if this sets a statement for, like, let's put it this way. I expect the vast majority of Ruby Sapphire lists in Seattle to be playing the dime. But what a statement, man. Ran Ruby Amethyst, didn't run the goat. Ran Ruby Sapphire, didn't run the dime. What a lad. Also in top 16 on Ruby Sapphire, we've got Killian with a much more traditional looking build. We've got 2 copies of Vitalosphere to bulk out our 1-drop items. Also playing that 1 copy of Fat and Crossbow, which is becoming more and more popular with the Ruby Sapphire players. Just 1 hideaway as our location and item hate. No Kuzgos in here. Only 1 big Sisu, instead opting for 4 copies of the Big Bad Be Prepared. And we are playing 2 copies of Lucky Dime here. Yeah, pretty traditional stuff. Congratulations to them. All right, nearly there. In top 16, we've got Kevin with some Emerald Amber Under the Sea. Super clean-looking list here. Utilizing 4 copies of that Under the Sea. Sing together 8. Put all opposing characters with 2 strength or less on the bottom of their player's deck in any order, which there's already a lot of characters that have that 2 strength or less. Painting the Roses red is going to help get even more characters there. And the 4 copies of Big Kida is going to do a lot of the work when on play, lowering the strength of all characters on the board by 3. So that's a super good combo. We've got Forcer Hiss to be a really aggressive early quester or singer with that evasive, could quite often be safe, and of course an answer to opposing Diablos at Cove. The discard package up in here, 4 Prince John, 4 You Have Forgotten Me, 4 Sudden Chill. We've got 4 Muses to that combo really nicely with our songs, and again they bounce characters of 2 strength or less, which goes with our Painting the Roses red and Kida combinations. 2 copies of the Hidden Cove to mess with the opponent's maps, a deck that I expect to do very well going into Seattle, so congratulations to Kevin. And last but not least, Sapphire Steel players, rejoice! In top 16, we have Marion with a super bulky toolbox variant. We are playing the 4 copies of Whole New World, so not quite ready to go over to Skylar's way of life. But yeah, a lot of the traditional stuff here. We are seeing 2 copies of Captain Hook for the early game, 2 Bells, 1 copy of the Aerial Treasure Collector, 1 Gaston Intellectual Powerhouse, 2 copies of the Tinkerbell Tiny Tactician, and 4 copies of the Floodborn. So we have access to that shift line, which can certainly catch players off guard. And again, this Tinkerbell's ability to exert and draw a card and then discard a card helps us get through these uninkables, these multiple copies of A Whole New World, helps us perhaps find these one-offs. And again, when you're playing a Whole New World deck, yes, it helps you dig to your one-offs, but it also raises the danger that you draw that one-off too soon when you don't want it and you want to wheel your hand. So it's a double-edged sword. Lots of ping hate, 1 Zeus, 2 cannons, 2 Baboom, and just 1 copy of Let the Storm Rage On up in here. 3 copies of Grab Your Swords, 2 Hades, 2 Kuzgo, and 1 Hideaway. So lots of item location hate. Yeah, like lots of options going on here, but led them all the way to top 16. I love it. Congratulations to Marion. And that is it for the top 16 deck lists for the Lorca Quest event. Again, all of that is based on their Swiss standings. If when I'm editing later, the final results are... I expect the event will be over, but the results might not be published straight away. If they are, then I'll add something either in the timestamps or the description to let you know what their actual final placements were. But yeah, this is probably going to be my last deck review video until after we cover Seattle. Obviously, I've got Ultra Data. The plan is for that to come out on Tuesday, but that's not looking in depth at deck lists. That's graphs and specific numbers. We may look at a couple of lists, but it's not the main theme of the project. So yeah, the plan is get this out today. I got D&D tonight. Monday will be a full research day, getting all my final numbers. Tuesday will be when I actually sit down, record. I won't be adding any more data to the pool from Tuesday, so I'm going to give it to the end of Monday for anything more to be added to inkdex.com, but I'll be compiling throughout Monday as well. And then, yeah, Tuesday morning, record the video, edit the video. That bit won't take long. It's the research that's going to be that has been and still a lot of it to do is going to be the long bit. But yeah, get that out on Tuesday. Then I'm back to card reviews. And yeah, I'm still up in the air about whether or not I'm going to be streaming, well, restreaming Seattle on Saturday and Sunday. Let me know if that's something that you would like to see. Oh, last thing. Heffalumps and Woozles. So you guys proper came out on the support for the Heffalumps and Woozles. 138 likes we got to on a card review video, which is an awful lot. That's much more than I would expect for card reviews. So thank you very much. We didn't hit the 200 that I asked for, but I'll tell you what, if this video gets just 100 likes, then I promise I'll do it. So yeah, hit the like button if you want to see that. But that's going to be it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you're brand new to the channel, please subscribe for all things Lorcana. As I just said, hit the like button for Heffalumps and Woozles. And we'll see you soon.